No, that's not a clickbait title. I really think you should not level up in Elden Ring. Not on your first playthrough, obviously. If you've never played the game before, play it however you want. But if you're considering another journey through the lands between, consider this. If the drug of Elden Ring is in the satisfaction of overcoming tremendous odds, the RL1 run is mainlining that drug. It is the distillation of everything that makes this series work, and it has completely changed the way I play these games, because now I am a onebro. Onebros is a subreddit full of people dedicated to not leveling up. Everything else is fair game. Summons, magic, weapon upgrades, scattertree blessings, whatever. Just be level 1, bro. All other restrictions are decided by the player to suit the level of difficulty that they want in the run, and level 1 Elden Ring has more freedom of expression than any other level 1 challenge in the series. This video is part 1 of a guide for anyone wanting to take on this challenge, to become a onebro. When I started this channel, I did it to upload my fights doing this challenge in the DLC. No commentary, just getting bosses with a weak-ass goof. I learned a lot doing those runs, and even more making this guide. If you've seen some of my video essays for Elden Ring, some of the footage used in those videos was captured from one of the runs I used to make this series of videos. I've been working on this for ages. It's the culmination of everything I've learned playing this game, so I really hope it's helpful. But that being said, I'm not an expert. I'm just a guy with a keyboard on the internet that has played this game a bunch, and I'm still learning. I do this in my spare time outside of work and study, so if there's things I've missed, share them. There are a ton of different options to take on the bosses in this game. I'm just sharing ones that worked for me. Others do exist. In this series, I am going to show you how to beat the game at level 1, but first, I'm also going to tell you why. Because there is more value here than bragging rights. It is in that sense of satisfaction. This challenge can make the game much harder than a normal run, but it can be easier. It really is in how you choose to scale the difficulty. If you just want to beat RL1 for bragging rights, and you don't want it to be head-numbingly difficult, you can do that pretty handily. You can absolutely break the game. If you're thinking at this point, there's no way I could do this challenge, I'm here to tell you that you absolutely can. If you can beat the game on a normal run, you can beat the game at level 1. You can do this. A good deal of people I talk about this challenge with have come under the impression that at level 1, boss fights must go for 20 minutes because you're doing 23 damage a swing. That's not true. In the Souls games, the vast majority of your damage comes from your weapon upgrades and your talismans. Your stats don't contribute nearly as much as you might think. Where the challenge of RL1 comes in is in your margin of error. In a normal run of Elden Ring, you can get by with hit trading. That is, you hit a boss with a big bonk, it hits you with a big bonk, the bigger bonk wins. In RL1, you can't do that. If the boss hits you with a big bonk, you are probably dead. But you can absolutely do much more damage in a well-optimized RL1 run than you can in a normal casual playthrough with a suboptimal build. To play at RL1, you need to make little to no mistakes in a boss fight. The variability comes in how long you need to keep that up. You can take down a good deal of the bosses in this game in under a minute, even at RL1. With a reasonable build, it could be 2. If you're a madman with no upgrades or talismans, it can take a lot longer. But however strong you decide you want to be, you will get to a point where most, if not all, attacks will probably one-shot you. The trick to this challenge is figuring out when to do your damage and how to stay alive until you have that opportunity. In order to figure out your win condition, you need to learn bosses' movesets, and that takes time. But if you take the time, you just may unlock an entirely new way to experience these games. If you remember fondly your first experiences playing Souls games, dying endlessly because you didn't know what you were doing, this will capture that magic. You'll be weak, it will make you feel like a bug, but that is, I think, the purest way to experience this game, to be weak. It is humbling, and I really hope you give it a go. Well, let me tell you why. I wasn't always into doing crazy challenge runs. I would never consider myself an elite gamer. I never got out of Bronze League of Legends. I can't figure out fighting games for the life of me. I play most games with difficulty options on the default setting. I'm not a masochist. The reason I started challenge runs was because of how I felt after my first Elden Ring playthrough. On that run, I collected everything I could and used it all. I combed through all the collectibles and tried it all out because I am, by nature, a completionist. I get FOMO real bad, especially with Souls games where if you progress too far, you could miss an important NPC questline or an entire area. I am hunting for content when I play these games. No stone left unturned. So if you're anything like me, you came out to Limgrave, spoke to Vare who told you to go up the hill to the big castle, and you did literally everything else before you finally headed in that direction. The issue with all this freedom is that it's very likely that you will finally make it to Margit and be far, far stronger than you should be if you want a challenging combat experience. Margit is supposed to be a tutorial boss. He also teaches you that if you're too weak, that you should go explore in the open world. If you already did, he sort of fails in his job. He's supposed to teach you some of the key mechanics of the game, but if you did what I did, it's likely that you'll destroy him on your first attempt and learn nothing. This is a problem. It is a flaw inherent in the open world design. Different players will experience this fight very differently, and there isn't an easy solution. In Rasputin's Difficulty is Weird video, he talks about the process of needing to scale the difficulty to your own preferred level, and the trouble in needing to do that busy work instead of having the developers scale the game to the experience they want the players to have. He relates it to other games that have complicated adjustable sliders to create tailor-made difficulty settings. And in my opinion, there is a level of self-management that is necessary to fully enjoy the range of options available in this game. You do, in fact, have to create your own adjustable difficulty slider in Elden Ring. You will enjoy the game far more once you realize that and embrace it. Fantasy novelist Brandon Sanderson has a really healthy mindset centered around a very defined playstyle. Here's him on the way he likes to play.
We've got Thog, the high priest of the Church of the Holy Bonk. Thog does not use magic. Thog does not understand magic. Thog does not believe in vigor. I'm immortal. I just come back if I'm killed.
But Brandon Sanderson hasn't just figured out his playstyle, he's figured out how strong he likes to feel.
Like I look for, in a Souls game, a boss to take me an hour to 2 hours.
Okay.
Because I want to be able to beat a boss knowing its moveset, rather than just running in, bonking it until it dies.
Trying to do this DLC at about half the recommended level, that usually gives me the challenge I'm looking for, because I'm leveling up.
Right.
The character doesn't need to level up. I'm leveling up. Like, fighting those dragons is super satisfying, because the first one that I fought, like, I must have died 50 or 60 times. Then I came to this one, and it's an upgraded one with new moves that I'm not used to. And I built it in, like, what, 3-4 times? I have leveled up way more than my character has. And that feels great. I like that in these games you can pick your difficulty by how much you level up and things.
This is, I think, a great way to deal with the juxtaposition between open-world exploration and combat-focused gameplay. Just because you have enough runes to level up, it doesn't mean you have to spend them. And just because you have found upgrade stones, it doesn't mean you have to upgrade anything. You can keep yourself weak, or you can make yourself stronger at any time. You can play the game however you like. But he does have a line. He says if he's stuck on a boss for 15 hours or so, like he did with Melania, then he'll use a mimic tier or brute force his way through. That's fine. You don't have to love every boss. I don't. If there's something stopping you from finishing the challenge, you can brute force your way through it to get to other fights you'll like more. When I first finished my first Elden Ring run, I used Mimic Tier for everything because I found it and realized it was strong. And when you realize that, it's kind of hard to keep it in your back pocket. So like a lot of people, I got through the game with pretty much no trouble until the last few bosses, which took a bit of doing. Because I hadn't really learned the game. I face rolled my way through most of it because I was insanely strong. These games are intentionally enigmatic. They don't teach you their mechanics, so you can get your whole way through the game not knowing them if you never had any incentive to learn them for yourself. So when I did finally beat the game, I ended up feeling pretty underwhelmed. I didn't love my first playthrough of Elden Ring. I was honestly a little disappointed, at least in comparison with the other games in the series. I didn't get that satisfaction from overcoming tremendous odds because the odds weren't tremendous, they were fairly manageable. I used the most powerful tools for everything, and it worked pretty much every time. But then I found out about the Onebros, and I thought, that's fucked. There's no way. But the more I looked into it, the more reasonable it started to look. And I thought, well, if I want an experience more in keeping with how much I struggled in those early games, why not? Why not at least give it a go? Because deciding to give it a go is pretty non-committal. Starting a level 1 run doesn't mean you need to finish it. There's no harm in trying it and seeing how far you get. So that's what I did. I started a dude, did some prep work and made my way to Margit. And after some time and a bunch of trial and error, I did it. Margit at level 1. That was huge for me. And so I thought, well, why not Godric? And he was even easier. And then suddenly I'm in Liurnia at level 1 when on my first playthrough, I was already level 30. And then soon Renala was down as well. Then Rykard, and then I'm facing Radahn at level 1 thinking, I could actually do this. I could beat the game. And after a long time, I did. And it was absolutely that feeling that I wanted on my first playthrough. I got that sense of satisfaction that I had missed my first time around when I face-tanked my way through the game. And I did it my way, with my own strategies, just like how Rasputin did when playing The Witcher 3 on the Death March difficulty setting. I figured out my own strategies and learnt the mechanics to cope with the difficulty that the game presented. There were no achievements. I didn't unlock anything. I was intrinsically motivated. I did it for my own sense of satisfaction, and not only was that enough, it was everything. It's why I play video games. And I appreciate the game far more because I've been forced to learn the game and experiment. I now utilize my entire moveset because I was forced to learn due to how hard I'd made the game for myself. This game is very difficult, but it allows you a lot of tools to help you get through it and make it easier. By restricting yourself, you are allowing it to be very difficult. So if you're this far along and you've never done a challenge run of Elden Ring, if you're not a Onebro, I'm going to offer you a little challenge. You don't need to commit to a full level 1 run, you can just try it out. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to start a little dude. Go on, Wretch, obviously, give them a weird name and make them look goofy as hell. This is a very important step because if you're going to die a bunch, you're better off watching it happen to a goofy doofus than your handsome muscular self-insert. It helps you keep a sense of humor about things. My first guy was Bosch, Forbidden Ninja Turtle. Look at this goofy ass dude. This dude was the Elden Lord. So, you've got your doofus, you're gonna get a couple things. First, grab your horsey, head down to the church and grab your physic. Next, you're gonna wanna get tears for your physic. I recommend the charged attack physic and the stamina physic. You can get them both south right by this tree. Using the physic before every fight is mandatory and a really important habit if you haven't already been doing that. It's a huge boost. Charged attacks will be your big punish because it's the best move you have for stagger, which is very important on a good deal of setups. This makes that move better. Stamina management is incredibly important at RL1, much more so than in a regular run, because if you do your big charged heavy and find yourself with no stamina to dodge the next attack, you're done. Having the stamina to be as aggressive as you can be while still dodging everything is really how you start to optimize. Alternatively, you can pick up the Strength Knot tier easily over here near Margit. It gives you a plus 10 to Strength, so it's a pretty good boost to your damage. It's also really handy to wield some weapons you wouldn't normally be able to. Next, you're going to get Radagon's Source Seal. This is going to give you a bunch of free levels at the cost of taking more damage. I never take this off. There are people who play a more defensive playstyle, but eventually you are going to get to a point where pretty much everything will kill you in one hit anyway, so I just use it and it gives you more weapon variety. But putting aside whatever you want to do later, for this challenge, I want you to use it because it will narrow your margin of error. So grab it. For most of this run, anything in between boss fights, you can pretty much just run right past. One thing you're going to want to practice if you haven't already been doing it is claw gripping your controller. Souls games are tricky because it's not easy to sprint and move your camera at the same time. This lets you do that. It is an enduring quality of these games, like it or hate it. Better get used to it. The other thing that will really help you getting around and dodging creepy crawlies is the jump. Not just jumping over things, but jumping away from. The jump gives you a bunch of distance, more distance than a roll would, and with much less recovery. Jumping away to dodge some moves instead of rolling is actually optimal in a good deal of situations, especially when you're in a hurry. Head on up the ladder. Don't worry about poison if it happens. Grab the half of the medallion while you're here, and then head down this hole. Make this jump. Avoid the big rats. Come down here and grab the talisman. Then you can just let yourself become din-dins. You've got what you came for. Next, we're going to get the rickety shield. Any small shield will do, really, but I like the rickety shield because of the low equip load, and it looks funny. You can buy a small shield over here at this merchant, but if you want the rickety one, head on down here in the Weeping Peninsula and farm these dudes right here. Eventually, they'll drop the shield. We're getting this because you're going to parry Margit. And I'm challenging you to do that because I think it's probably likely that you haven't done that, because I think it's fair to say that a good deal of people like to use a big two-handed weapon when they play this game. I'm challenging you to change it up. The RL1 challenge is all about engaging with the systems and learning them, so learn them. If you've already parried Margit, I don't know, try throwing something at him or using a silly weapon, whatever. So head on over to Margit and use your base starting club with no upgrades. Equip your rickety shield and your saw seal and just run in there. Just go for it. The worst that can happen is you die and pop up right there at that grace point. It's pretty low stakes. But it is going to be hard. It could take you a while, a long while, but that's all right because you will do it. It is absolutely achievable. Just let it take time. If you want to see some advice on how to keep a cool head in the learning process and see what to look for, you can take a look at my learning process videos right here. That's where I offer live commentary in my own learning process and how I cope with the mental game. In this series of videos, I'm not going to go move by move in each boss's moveset because a good deal of the enjoyment of this challenge is in the learning process. But if you do want a more in-depth guide, they're out there. There's really only one move that I think is tricky to figure out how to dodge, and that's the sword combo. Lupine's video here explains that pretty well, so I won't repeat it. Don't be afraid to look at how someone else takes on this fight on YouTube. Type Xboss RL1 no-hit into YouTube whenever you feel yourself getting stuck on a particular move. There are tons of great challenge runners on YouTube that have uploaded no-hit runs that you can study. Slow down the footage and look for that one attack. Sometimes the solution is as simple as rolling left instead of right, or strafing instead of backing away. The Onebros subreddit is, of course, also a fantastic resource. There are far more defensive options than just the dodge roll. As mentioned, you can jump away and over. You can parry. Later on, you can deflect. You can also just sprint. Here are some tips specific to Margit. Every move that Margit uses with his big stick is parryable. When he brings out the big glowy hammer and the knives, they're not, so roll them. This one move though, where he brings out the stick and the hammer, is parryable because the stick hits you first. You need 2 parries to get a riposte, and he'll always follow up the first parry with one of 2 attacks, and both are parryable. You have enough time to get 2 R1s in between both to keep up the stagger. Speaking of staggers, obviously there's not a visible bar, but that doesn't mean you can't get a feel for when it's coming. It isn't random. So if you get 2 charged heavies off in a reasonable time frame, it's likely that one more big attack is going to do it. Knowing this allows you to be much more aggressive and go for attacks when you know it will stagger. In Phase 2, he's a lot more dangerous, so it's best to stay at the mid-range and then go in when he's got his big stick in the air for the parries. If you really don't want to parry and it's making you frustrated, just two-hand the club, and anytime he has a massive delayed attack, walk around to his butt and give him a charge. You can even play around with Barbaric Roar. This will make your heavy attacks even stronger, and it's really good against Margit because he takes so long to recover. You can also swap from one-handing to two-handing and back again for specific punishes if you want. Getting comfortable with that is definitely going to come in handy for some fights down the line. You will die a lot, but you will get better. As Brandon Sanderson said, you will level up, not your character. Sometimes it might not feel that way, and maybe you want to take a break if you're getting frustrated, but try not to get frustrated because, again, the stakes are pretty low. He is unfair. He's supposed to be unfair. The terrain makes it difficult. He has traps where you think it's safe, but it's not. He chucks knives at you when you try to heal, and you're making it even more unfair by playing it as you are. You're allowing it to be unfair. And that makes it so much more satisfying when you do get him down, because you will. Or you won't. If you give it a go and you find that you're getting really frustrated to a point where it's not fun anymore and you resent the game and you resent me for telling you to play like this, well, stop. No one's holding a gun to your head. Go outside and smell the roses. Play a different game. This challenge isn't for you, and that's okay. There's no harm, no foul. But if you're having trouble, you can also just upgrade your weapon, of course, if you really want to. You can also change your weapon. Margit is weak to slash damage. He's got low elemental negation for everything but holy, so anything that has split damage will be pretty good, and pretty much any status effect is great on him. I'll go through more of these options in the next video. If you're still having trouble, head in to see Patches, give him a good knock, and then buy the shackle off him. This will stun him twice in phase 1 and give you a really good head start. However you manage to get him, let me know. I'd be stoked to hear it. And subscribe for more, because if you manage to complete that challenge, you are absolutely good enough to beat the entire game at level 1. And next time, I'll show you how. Thank you to all my lovely patrons. Thank you to Spencer Moss, Bender, Wastoid, and a very special thank you to Leiko. As well, of course, all the lovely people on the screen here. This video and the ones that followed took so long to make. I work a full-time job and I'm studying a degree on the side. I'm a maniac for doing this, but when I get something in my head, I can't stop myself. Your support means that I can spend more time doing this and less time at my job. That not only means the videos I make are better and more frequent, it means that I can get some sunshine once in a while. I really do appreciate the support. I put exclusive content on there. I've put live commentaries of a lot of my video essays on there. I'll also be doing shorter mini reviews of things that I've played that aren't suited for longer videos on the main channel. I'll be uploading my own footage of defeating Margit under these restrictions up there, so check it out if you do want to see that. I will see you very soon for the next part in this series. Be well, and please, please have a great day.